welcome back to Tea and Poetry. Today I've got Maofeng green tea mixed in with my lemonade creatine powder. It's not the tastiest, but it'll tide me over. So, the focus of today's episode, I was thinking of doing local poets, which I will do, but I'm also going to focus on sort of indie publishers, not anything against Penguin or Random House or Scholastic or DK or Gilbert or Avery or Viz or the Lions Press. I can go on and on. You don't want me to go on and on. I know. Don't worry. Bayback Books. Anyway. Harper Perennials. No. We won't focus on that today. We won't focus on the big publishers. We're going to focus on the small publishers. So, to start, I'm going to do one that's very local, which is the Paper Moon magazine. Now, they promote art and poetry within my upstate New York sort of area. And Joshua, who owns the place, is just a lovely person to deal with. So we're going to flip through and find a poem, because that's what I focus on, and we're going to... Oh, I found one that I think I'll like. Grown men. And all the grown men, the tough old dads and uncles, who can't stand to eat certain foods or they'll get angry, can't stand to do certain jobs or they'll get upset, can't stand to change diapers because it's not their job and they'll get angry and upset. Who can't stand this? Can't stand that? Catty. Can't take the trash out, can't do dishes, can't do laundry, can't cook. Can clean the cat poop, or the mouse poop, the bird poop, your own poop. Can't stand tolerance, have no patience, can't not fight, can't stand how you look, never enjoy anything. Everything's competition, everything's a business, everyone's a sucker, but not everyone's a man. So they say, except them, so they say. There is no real man. There's only doing what's right, and there's never anything that the entire world is to these people. There's never anything that is the entire world to these people. Now, I feel like it's... Oh, by the way, this is by Joe Kenyon. I feel like it's very blatantly clear what this is about. It's about the incompetence that's on purpose. It feels on purpose. I've known people my age who make themselves as toddler-like as possible so that everyone just does everything for them, and it's absurd. I know people that don't even shower consistently, and not because they can't. Not because they can't, because they don't want to. They want to be stinky, they want to be boisterous, they want to be loud, and it is irritating. And grown men should be gentlemen, not that. I know men my age that can't even cook for themselves. They can't even make pasta. And they think it's funny to have their girlfriends or their wives or whatever do everything for them. That is not a grown man. That is just a child in a man's body. And it's so strange to me. And it's clearly very strange to Joe here. And they can't take the trash out. They can't do the dishes. They can't do the laundry. They can't not fight. They can't stand how you look. They're so intolerant despite being intolerable themselves. And I feel like that's many people in the current day. Not just the so-called grown men. It's many people who've got such a great self-importance with nothing to offer. If a child has nothing to offer, that makes sense because they're a child. But if you're a grown person and you still have nothing positive to offer, you have no good redeeming qualities, you have no accomplishments, then get to work. Get to work. You're not a grown man if you spend your time whining, complaining, and about other people while doing nothing yourself. Now, I would like to do another poem from Paper Moon and their magazine, just because it's a very important place to me. So why don't we find another one? Now, for those of you that have not been to upstate New York, there's a place called Glens Falls, and I believe from the last time I was there, I was told it was the most normal town in the United States. And in that town, there's a place called Freer Park. It's right next to it's not far from the library there. I haven't been there in a while. And it's just a quaint little place where you can go watch the ducks, play around. Every other park. Very, very normal town. They weren't lying about how bland that place is at times. But Freer Park is nice. So we'll read this poem. It's by Ian Max. A decade ago, we used to surf down these hills on the freshest of snowfalls. Now the wind chills act as a reminder of what was before. Everything changed. We're seasoned to continue living with conditions, listen to Christmas carols and hopes of feeling the spirit. Fleeting like a turtle dove, migrations of worry and wonder. The geese landed in Montana looking for shelter. Instead, they dipped into a metallic pit and ceased to exist. A human trap that was once free space, consuming the parts of this place that were unaltered, timeless, and great. Memories of youth are stained on the weathered marks of my face. Lived in, dealt with, a marker of fate. And the same way that we tried to avoid getting hit by speeding sleds, we dodged the dangers of being constantly consumed by all the doubts in our heads. Now, as we see from this one, it's very nostalgia-oriented and change-oriented. Everything changed. The wind chill acts as a reminder. Now, in our areas, the snow is horrible in the winter. It's very, 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 very cold. But this is such a commentary on how when they were in their youth, when I was in my youth, I did the very same. We would go sledding. But now it's barren. It's sterile. As they say, kids don't go outside and play in or outside as much. And now the geese are into a metallic pit and dying in Montana. Montana being a place known for its nature. And memories are stained on the weathered marks of my face. It's only what's left that I know of this. It's gone. Now it's anxiety-ridden. The doubts in their heads versus the speeding sleds. You may avoid a speeding sled, but at least you get to land in the snow and have fun. But now it's just doubts. It's just pain. There's no spirit. Migrations of worry and wonder. Now our minds are migrating, going to places they shouldn't be going. And Freer Park is no longer a place where we have great memories. It's a place where we wallow. A human trap that was once free space, consuming the parts of this place. It's been taken. I mean, the industrialization of many of these parks, the rundown playground that they won't repair, the golf course that they put in on a wildlife preserve, and the hunting of animals for sport that they toss out there. Many men I respect do hunt, and they hunt for food. They use the parts of that animal. They do it the proper way. Yet, when you have people that don't do it the proper way, those are the same people that argue that people shouldn't immigrate to our country illegally. But yes, I'll totally shoot that deer prematurely before it's legal to do so, because that's a different thing. That's a different thing. The law only applies to those that I am against, because it's not an issue of the law. It's an issue of my own opinions and not wanting to admit them. Anyway, that's a little rant, but it does catch in my mind that the rules for thee but not for me is always ever prominent. And that's very much how we end up without our parks and without our joy. Now, Ian Max here has me caught, so we're gonna take a look at another one of his. Red lights, flying through the tunnel, lined with acquaintances that may not have the best interests. Red light, ran it. These actions are photo enforced with fines payable to the soul. Hold tight for the night, hold tight for the morning after. Sirens set a shock to the situation. Blue alternates between white and red. Under the arrest of uncertainty and anxiety, this cage doesn't need the added danger, the thrill of leaving the scene, the drain from the fruitless chase. For further reference here, our tickets here, so expensive. In New York, it's actually just expensive to live, and expensive to die, and expensive to breathe, and expensive to hold your breath. It's nightmarish in terms of cost. So, and they really do enforce it. We have cameras on almost every stoplight, and the mayors in the capital region are putting those flock safety cameras, which are anything but safe, from what I hear. And we've told them not to, and they just keep putting things in that are to harm us for whatever reason. Hold tight for the night. Hold tight for the morning after. It also takes months for our tickets to arrive. And on occasion, by the time the ticket arrives, it's too late. And then it's already doubled in price. And without the ticket number, I can't pay it online, so how am I supposed to deal with that? It's absurd. Now, it also seems to make a commentary in this poem very shortly on the tunnel being lined with acquaintances. Everyone around us is in the same sort of painful situation. The uncertainty and anxiety. This cage doesn't need the added danger. The thrill of leaving the scene. The drain from the fruitless chase. Every one of us is scared of cops these days. And I would say for good reason. If I have any thought that there's someone behind me that could either end my life, make my life hell, or whatever they want from their discretion, yeah, I'm going to be afraid. Especially when the camera could catch me for so much as going a few miles over the speed limit, and then I get pulled over and possibly lose my life for a simple mistake. While they'll go no sirens off, no sirens on, 90 miles an hour down the highway, and whatever. Now, I'd rather have them here than not, but still, it's frightening. And to run a red light and to have uncertainty should not be the case. If I get pulled over, I should be certain that I will receive proper justice. In my criminology studies, I have been very disappointed by many of the parts of the criminal justice system. And I feel like the term criminal has become such a sleeve on the arm, an armband to say, I am in danger. If you label someone a criminal, that sticks with them for life, and it can raise the rates by which your friends become criminals, even if you didn't commit a serious crime. Now, I actually read quite a few research papers on this, and having a friend labeled a criminal or even spend a moment in the police car raises the chance of you getting arrested, even if you break off contact with the person that had been arrested, and that's not good. Yet we do have a president who's a criminal. How did that happen? Get a load of that. No. Don't. So now we're going to move on to Songs of Archilochus by Susan S. Rancourt. I've got an autographed copy. Don't mean to brag. I do. I do mean to brag. She's one of my favorite poets. Well, a local poet. Because we already know who one of my favorite poets of all time is. Okay. Let me find one here. As they say. We will do. Oh, I love this one. We'll do page 23. As my mother died, she became a bird. I fanned her. She closed her eyes, her breastbone rounded to prominence, a mound of Venus her heart. Like the birds I scun encased, my fingers loving the delicacy and power simultaneously, the weight of no weight, the flight of ecstasy, lift off from a landing, of no landing, just effleurage. Owl feathers skim through the air, beauty of bone, hollow tubes, your light spirit whistles through. Now, this one's pretty simple, but the verbiage of it is just beautiful to me. The moments in which her mother dies, and it's such a gentle experience. It's a person that meant the world to you becoming nothing more than a feather, nothing more than a breath. They're so light. And they're just there. How fragile we become. We think we're so strong for our whole lives, and then we become nothing but bones, and bones become hollow. The weight of no weight, the delicacy and power simultaneously. We hold so much power over those that are gone to us. We hold the power of who they were, and that, in a poetic sense, is unmatched. Now, another point of this is that owl feathers don't make a sound while they skim through the air. Your light spirit whistles through. The spirit really does make no sound, but we have this idea that the soul is there. We have the idea that a spirit's there. We have the idea that we have meaning even after we're gone. And as your mother dies, she becomes a bird. She becomes that constant light reminder that isn't quite caught, but you always know. Now, why don't we find another little one? Another little poem to read. We will do. We'll do. Iambus, because iambic pentameter, and so on. It is you who blames the masses, staggered target. You wield words, syllabatic soldered stops, glorified loner, whole and ecstatic camaraderie. I blame you and your dusted stone alleys, spiritual leeriness, phenomenological ahas, and that lopsided smirk we both recognize. We both know, when we take a knee, surrender's not quitting. I blame you for righteous audacity, leading to moral crossroads strung with black and red flags that snap wind, that need no permission from man or gods. Now, it's of course, iambic, and it's a poem that I believe to be trying to contain war. You have, in this, I would say it is about politicians largely. The lack of accountability and quite possibly the idea of a military professional who does not see the combat. It is you who blames the masses. You make the enemy into an enemy in our minds, and you use your words as a weapon. You wield the words. And we have that smirk. We have that little connection where I know what you're doing is wrong and you know what we're doing is wrong, yet you still promote it. And needing no permission from gods and the moral crossroads strung, we are taking things into our own hands. We're deciding that we have the ability to make that decision. I get to decide to take or not to take a life because I am a general or I am a GI, I am a soldier. I get to decide if a life gets taken or not. I am no man, I am no god, I am war. And Susan S. Rancourt does a good job of encompassing all of that. That's why I love her as a poet. She's very satisfying to read, and she's local, so that's a wonderful little bit of information. Now, I actually considered not doing any of my own poems for this one, but I'm gonna do a poem for this as well. This one's not in the book, but check out the book if you want. We'll do Blown to Pieces. Now, I have another poem about a bird getting hit by a car, but this one is a different one. You drive too fast on your way home. You speed along like the world is yours. The pigeon had no metric of your speed. No dove to you. It dove to you, and soon met the radiator. For those of you that don't know, pigeons are a kind of dove. They're one and the same. And we can't really expect them to understand what cars even are, what they do, and we disregard their beauty in such a way to where it didn't matter much to this person that they hit this dove. I have not hit a pigeon, or birds for that matter, but in this, we're imagining someone who has, and it's blown to pieces. It gets destroyed, and it's just, okay. It was just a sky rat, as people say. The world is not ours, and we need to remember that, and it can be taken from us or given back. We can't play God, just as Susan Rancourt pointed out. We have to understand our place in the world, and it is within the ecosystem just as everything else is. Though. That's all for now. I'm only going to do one of mine now, in case you guys get sick of mine. And now I'll take another sip. Not the greatest, but pretty good. Pretty good. Not the worst. Anyway, thanks for listening to Tea and Poetry. A little bit shorter of a episode today. But the next one will probably be longer because we're going to be getting into Rupi Kaur. Ow, 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 ow. As they would probably say, because I feel like it is very Twilight adjacent poetry. to the general public. I've never actually seen Twilight, though, but I think it's sort of similar in that book talk or whatever people establish it as. So we'll focus on Rupi Kaur, and then the other half will be on myself. Thanks.